morning, everyone.
Hello.
Morning.
Hi.
Morning.
We're
Good
getting our
morning.
screens set up here.
One
Taking
sec.
us just a minute. I'm Trish. You guys have been corresponding with me just a little bit as we've been working on connecting and getting you signed up for this. Thank you so much for those that have been waiting since October of last year, and for those of you that just sent in your applications last week. So we only do a couple of these a year, so it does kind of mean that we have folks that have been waiting for a bit longer than others. But we certainly are just so excited to see everybody and to be able to share a little bit about Audio Reader and the opportunity that we have for our volunteers. So we are just at a couple minutes past 12:30, and I see a couple of folks in the waiting room still working on joining. So I'm going to leave that. If you guys would throw a hand up if you're seeing the mission on the screen. Oh, nope.
Did.
Great.
You see?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Good waves. Thank you all. Appreciate that. Okay, you can take that off now, Nick. Thank you. We'll get started here in momentarily. And Nick is our program director, and he is helping me out with the wonders of slides. As y'all know, with our pandemic experience, most folks have gotten more used to this Zoom environment, but it also allows us to have folks that are in Lawrence, folks that are not in Lawrence, and all of us to be connected here. Okay, let's see. Still have one more person in the waiting room trying to get connected.
One thing what we can do while we're waiting, if you can check that your name is your name on your listed. I know there's what, yeah, it looks like, yes, I see one phone number. It's if you hover over your image of yourself, the three dots in the top right-hand corner, you can
Down there.
rename. Yeah,
That cool.
we sometimes have shared Zoom accounts and all
Three
that kind of
dots
stuff.
in the upper corner. There's no three dots.
All right.
That's generally how we'll address you by whatever is in your naming. Thanks.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started as it's about 5 minutes after. And so I am just going to get started with us with this slideshow here so that you all can take a peek at our mission. It's a wonderful thing for us to be able to bring you together and share about a service that we are so dedicated to. As you see there, Audio Reader is a network that fosters independence by providing access to information and the arts for people who have difficulty reading standard print due to vision loss, physical, learning disability, mobility challenges, and age. So with that in mind, as you can tell, there are many ways in which we reach our listeners, but there's also many different listeners out there. We have many folks that we provide our services to. And in fact, those listeners get our services in different ways because they are unique folks that have different backgrounds, just as much as our volunteers have many different backgrounds too. So we're going to flip to this next slide and just take a peek at some of those numbers of our listeners. And I point that out because as you look at the different folks that are reaching out to us in different ways, you also see the different services that we provide. So we are providing our reading services over the website, and we have 9,000 page views. We are also providing that through Alexa Skill, which I don't know if many of you knew that or not, but our services are provided to Alexa so that folks can just shout out, play Audio Reader, and Alexa will play our programming. Of course, we have our old-fashioned radios, which most of you probably heard about us as a radio service. We also can reach our listeners via telephone, over 8,500 calls to our telephone reader system, and then also through SoundCloud. So we have folks that can get our services in many different ways. And the only way that we can do that, and first of all, I say it's free to our listeners. There is no cost to our listeners. But if you look at this next slide, this is the reason that we can do it. The only way that we can provide our services is through all of our wonderful volunteers. And they are definitely skilled, dedicated, and unique. And when I ever talk to folks about Audio Reader, they often say, oh, you guys just read. And I always want to say, oh, our listeners do much more than read. And you guys are going to learn about that today. So, and of course, it's a lot of effort and a lot of learning, and you got to put a little bit of creativity as well as that intellectual component too. But in the next slide, I hope you can also see that it's fun. Our folks are really warm and welcoming volunteers. This is at our annual banquet, and we definitely have a good time doing good work. So yeah, that's just a quick overview so that we can jump into what we have today as we move forward with the plan. We're going to meet the staff. We're also going to learn a little bit more of just that information that we touched on. I will also ask each of you to introduce yourselves as well, because we also, of course, want to learn about you too. And then we will talk about those volunteer expectations as well as the audition process. That is definitely a process. And then we'll go over the next steps so we all know where we're going from here. So let us then, oh, it looks like I've got somebody in the waiting room. Let me let them in here real quick. I think that might be Jenna. So if we have other folks pop on, again, we'll continue right along. So this wonderful group of folks that you see here, while we do have about 10 folks on staff, some of us are part-time folks, and some of us are also shared with our wonderful sister organization, Kansas Public Radio. But we are a very connected group of folks, and we're also always willing to help each other out. I had volunteers mention that to me the other day, how much they appreciated the way they could see that staff cared about each other and really took the time to help out, because, we're all human people with kids that get sick and family lives that also can throw us in different directions. So it's great to have a team that really works together. And our volunteers are a big part of that too. So let's jump into some of the folks that are here with us today. Of course, some folks are not available to be on this call, but I will go ahead and have our director start off by introducing herself. And what I'm asking the staff to do is share just, their role here at Audio Reader, and then also to add one other thing about themselves. So before I hand it off to Felonies, I will share that my name is Trish Dowd-Kelney, so that you can hear it pronounced right. And as you know, I'm the coordinator of volunteers. I've only been with Audio Reader about 3.5 years, so I'm a bit newer to this than some of the folks on staff. And I also, I raise chickens. I have a family, we live here in Lawrence, and we have a group of 13 chickens that now is only 3 chickens, because we also had some coyotes that enjoyed our chickens as much as we did. So, but yeah, I raise chickens. So that's one thing about me. Okay, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our director.
Hi, everyone. My name is Felonice Lovato Winston, and I'm the director of Audio Reader and also our sister organization, Kansas Public Radio. I worked at Audio Reader for several years and then moved to KPR for about 8 years. And now I'm very lucky I get to work for both. I live here in Lawrence with my husband and my daughter, and I have 4 cats, which is maybe too many, some would say, but we're enjoying it so far. So thank you so much for your interest in volunteering. We're so happy that you're here.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I think we'll go, actually, I'm having a hard time seeing who all is with us. I know that Nick is here and Meredith.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can go next.
Okay, sounds great.
Just to say hi, I'm Nick Carswell. I'm the program director. I'm coming up on 10 years I think next month with Audio Reader. And I'm just going to say I'm an Irishman. That's my special, unique thing, unless there's other Irish people in here. I say an Irishman accidentally living in Lawrence, Kansas is what I did. But 15 years later, it's all a terrible accident. Okay, that's me.
We are glad for that happy accident, Nick.
Thanks.
Okay, and then Meredith.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Meredith Johanning. I've been with Audio Reader for a little over 10 years, so time flies. I am one of our part-time staff, and I'll talk a little bit later about what I do. Something different or interesting about me is I'm actually a K-State grad. So I have come to love both universities that encompass this great state of Kansas since Audio Reader falls under the KU umbrella. And I also am surrounded by lots of Jayhawk fans. So by association, I'm a Jayhawk fan as well.
Okay, wonderful. And oh, look at that. I see Colin is just perfect timing. Colin, as he comes on, is our operations coordinator, and he runs a lot of the preparations of our programming before it goes out on air. But he also is at our front desk, and he covers for folks that are coming in for all the different events over at KPR, but also on our side too. And yeah, I don't, but I bet that he has gotten interrupted with folks down at the front desk. So let me see if he's. Well, Colin is a wonderful, wonderful gentleman that you all get to connect with, perhaps at another time. And he's also, oh, there he is. Hi, Colin. I was
Hi,
trying to
I'm
introduce
sorry.
yourself. No, I was just saying you get caught up at the front desk with all the things that you were doing down there. So, but say hello. You're at the perfect time.
Okay, sorry. Hi, everybody. I'm Colin, operations coordinator, front desk guy. I do a lot of the audio editing. I'm sure Trish already said all of this, but
Tell us one fun thing about yourself, Colin,
one fun thing.
or additional thing.
I also am a musician. I play in a band.
Awesome. Roseline, right? Just in case you got some
Roseline,
fans. Okay, well, that's a little bit about our staff. As you can see, Martha Kerr, she's going to pop in via video. She's one of our other core staff members, and she does our communications and our listening outreach. And she, of course, is doing just that today. She is out at an outreach event and so unable to be with us, but she did provide a video of a portion of her information in the presentation later. And then, as I mentioned, we have just a great staff work together, and none of this services would be possible without all of our help and support. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide there, because all of this is for our listeners, and we want to make sure that you have a chance to hear from our listeners, perhaps. But it looks like maybe that one's not working. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have it pulled up here. For some reason, the embedded YouTube isn't working, but I'm going to just share it like this. You're going to see my YouTube, but here you go.
Thank you, Nick.
Hi, this is Kayleen, one of your telephone reader listeners. I sure do enjoy the Dillon's ad, the Walgreens ad, the Apple Mart ad, and the newspapers, both the Today's section and the special edition of the Capital Journal. I sure enjoy that, and I sure appreciate you all taking the time to read that and take the time to do the holiday things as well, because I know that sometimes it's busy. But thank you all for all you do for us listeners. It sure helps a lot in our lives. Okay, thank you. Bye.
When I first was diagnosed with my eye problem, I was in a very dark place, and the audio reader was my help and guidance through that. And through the years, I have enjoyed it, and I just wish your company great success. And I just thank you so very much for all the volunteers, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Hello, this is Shirley Fudge. I am an audio reader.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. So we've gotten a chance to talk just a tiny bit about Audio Reader and our mission. And we've got a chance to meet the staff, and then a little bit of introduction to our listeners. And so now I'd like to turn it over to you all. I'll do my best to help if we can, are you, can we unshare? Is that, okay, does that work? Okay. That way we can all see each other. And when I'm looking at my screen, I can see you guys' names. What I'd like for us to do is take a moment to introduce yourself and then also to share a little bit about something that you are reading every day, like something that you pick up and is part of your everyday life. So if you could do that, of course, tell us how you heard about Audio Reader too, but however you'd like to introduce yourself. But if you would, then pick the next person to go, and that way we can kind of pop around like popcorn. And if you need some help, I'll help too. So I see Jessica first. So if perfect, she unmuted and say hello, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Minningham, and I heard about Audio Reader from Meredith. She's a great friend of mine. I read every day. I think last year I read 115 books. I took a speed reading class when I was 12 years old, and it stuck with me. And I'm just an avid reader. I don't retain all of it, but I read absolutely every day of my life. Unfortunately, my kids don't love to read, but my husband does. So we have a lot of books in our house. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Pick the next person. To my right is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi there. I'm Jim Gilkison, and I think I heard of Audio Reader back maybe 30 years ago from my stepsister. It always intrigued me. I too am a reader. We seem to have at least a novel going over dishes. We read out loud to each other at our house and on long trips. And in addition, I usually got 2 or 3 other books going at the same time. So it's just been part of my life. Outside of that, I've been living in Lawrence now for a year and a half. And this is the 3rd time I've lived in Lawrence. So this has been, this is sort of an intersection of reading, of book, of writing, of voice work, things of that nature that have always been kind of in the background for me, but this seems like an opportunity to do something with it. So I'm going to pass over to Wallace.
Thank you, Jim. I'm Wallace Renfro. I think it was my daughter who introduced me to Audio Reader, suggested that I might want to look into it. I have been an avid listener all of my life. In addition to reading books, I love to listen to books on Audible. It was how I managed my morning and evening commutes for 41 years when I worked at the NCAA in Kansas City. I was in communications for a very long time. I ended up in the last 10 years working directly in the president's office as their communication advisor and policy advisor and travel aide, and the person that always hung around. I twice resigned because I thought they would want to get rid of me since I had been associated with the last president, but they kept bringing me back, and that was okay. Let's see, what else would I say about myself? I also love carpentry. My father was a carpenter, and I love to go down to my basement carpenter shop and fiddle around. I can't see anyone else, so I don't know who to pick.
I'd be glad to help out. How about Chris? Chris Long, are you there? Could you share with us? Chris may, there you go.
I'm here.
Hi, Chris.
I don't know how to turn the camera on.
That's okay. We can hear you. That's most important.
I went to school here in Lawrence many years ago, many years ago, and then moved first to Austin, Texas for a long time, and then to the mountains of New Mexico. And I am back in this area. I've been back about a little over a year. And I'm just have things that I'm always searching for purpose, things to do that give my life purpose. And this, like many of the others, I've been an avid reader and just a generally curious person. And so this sounded like a good fit.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Let's see. I will go ahead and say, Margaret, would you go next? And then if you can see the next person, you can shout out. And if not, I will pick.
Okay, my name is Margaret, but I go by Margie. I'm a longtime retired school teacher from the Lawrence School District. My husband and I, my late husband and I moved here in the 70s. I'm active in several book clubs and a big volunteer at the public library. And I will call on, I can't see a first name there. Let's see, Craig and Laura.
Perfect. Thank you, Margie, right? Margie? Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm Craig and this is Laura. We're both applicants and we said we'll log in together. It'll be easier. And my screen blurring is blurring my face, so that'll be fun. I am a transplant from Los Angeles. I was in the entertainment industry there, and we now live in rural Kansas, about 35 minutes south of Topeka. And we're both retired, and we were doing an NPR tour. We're donors, and they brought us by your area, and we said, "Oh, we could do that. We would like to do that. I have recording equipment upstairs," and did reading for textbooks for the blind in Los Angeles as a volunteer many years ago. And I'll let you speak for yourself.
I grew up in Kansas, so we were coming home when we came back here. But I lived in Los Angeles. I'm a retired attorney. I read all the time. Actually, I started reading aloud to him when he was driving, when we drove back here during the pandemic, because the audiobook we were reading, we couldn't follow the accent in, so I started reading. And it turns out that while I get car sick if I read to myself in the car, I don't get car sick reading aloud. So
Go figure.
done a lot of reading that way and kept reading even when we're at home.
Yeah, so to this day, we continue to read, just like I think Jim was saying earlier, we read back and forth to each other all the time. And fiction, nonfiction, doesn't matter. It's been a lot of fun. In fact, I don't think I've really picked up a book other than to read to each other. So that's weird. I will pass this to DRVLT.
Me?
That's you, I think.
My name is Vicki Turbeville. The DRVLT is because I've had this email. I got it right before I finished my defense for my PhD, and I was so proud. And so now here it is 35 years later, and it's still there. I'm a retired speech pathologist. I read a lot of different kinds of things. One of the things I like to do every day is I read in Spanish. Don't read out loud in Spanish because that's not there, but I'd like to read in Spanish. And heard about this through the retirement group at the library. And I will pass to Meredith. Has Meredith done?
How about Pam?
Pam? Sure. Good enough. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Vicki.
Hi, I'm Pam, and I am also a retired school teacher. I grew up around in this area. But most of my teaching was done in overseas international schools, so lived in several different countries. But I did the last 10 years before I retired, I taught in Topeka public schools. So I've known about Audio Reader for a long time. And I reconnected at the volunteer fair. I have a cold today, so thank goodness for Zoom. I belong to like 1.5 book clubs and, start my morning with the local paper. And I'm interested in the audio description portion of what you do a lot.
That's wonderful, Pam. I think you're maybe have frozen. I'm so sorry. Oh. Okay, we'll catch back up with Pam after maybe her video catches back up. Thank you so much, Pam, and I will hand it over to, is it Renee? Is that right? Am I saying your name right? Miss Chandler?
Hi, yes,
Okay.
it's Rain. So close.
Rain, okay. Good deal. I bet Nick would have done better with that one. Thank you. Perfect.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Rain, and I work for the University of Kansas. So, for anybody who is familiar with the campus, I office out of Caruth O'Leary, which I only learned in the last year or so is very close to the lovely audio reader garden. Fun fact about myself, I love plants, I love gardening. So I first heard about the Audio Reader Network actually because of the garden. And then I was like, what does this have to do with audio reading? Did some research, got absolutely fascinated. That's how I wound up here. But I do also love reading. It's just that working in human resources, most of my reading comes in the form of a lot of legal stuff, a lot of emails, a lot of HR tickets, but I do like to read for fun as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rain. Okay, I think Angela would be up next.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I apologize. I'm a little under the weather, so I have a sore throat. But I have lived in Lawrence for a long time. I went to KU, and just like Meredith, I also went to K-State. I have a master's degree in education, and I'm an instructional designer. And I've known about the program for a very long time. I think I first heard about it when I was actually at KU. And I love to read a lot. I read mysteries mostly because that's my personal taste. But then I also have a teenage son who likes fantasy. So to sort of stay connected with him, I also read some of those books as well. So kind of like Dungeons and Dragon type of stories. So that's me. Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Angela. Appreciate it. And I know Susan was also not feeling very well today too. So Susan, are you able to share a little bit, or would you rather us go on?
Yes, I can. Can you hear my
Wonderful.
voice last? I understand where Angela's coming from. I'm a KU grad, and I have one child who graduated from KU and one from K-State, like both of them. And I was a teacher. I've taught kindergarten through college, and stayed home with my kids, and then became a physical therapist. So I love to read all kinds of things. My distinction probably is that in the seventh grade, I was called into the principal's office because somehow all of my teachers in elementary school found out that every book report I'd done was on a mystery. And they made me read Mary, Queen of Scots. And I hated history until high school, where I had a really good history teacher that broke me of that. Now I love all kinds of reading, and I want so much to be able to support public education. And that was a big thing for me. I never heard about this garden, but I want to know more. So I also have a granddaughter who has hearing deficits. And so these kinds of programs are so close to me. I'm just glad that you have this to be able to volunteer for. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Well, what a wonderful group of folks. I think I've got everyone. Is there anyone? Speak up if I missed you. My screen is showing that I got everybody. So wonderful. So glad to have you all here. And we're going to move forward with our next slide because we just talked about all the great things that you read and how enriching it is in your life and how important it is to you, both for your own, work, for research, for sharing with family. And, that's what we do. Audio Reader brings that to life for the folks that have loved reading and then have had something come in the way of that. We mentioned that our listeners, oftentimes folks think that our listeners are folks that did not have sight when they were born, that they are persons without sight at all. And while that might be true for some, that's not the case for a majority of our listeners. Most of our listeners come to the loss of sight or the need for additional help with access to the printed word because of something that happens later in life. That could be a cognitive issue as well as something with their sight. It could be a mobility issue, a change in their learning. So all of those things impact the fact that they can no longer access that thing they loved so much. And they might really remember the way the paper looked, and they might really remember the way the book felt and the different ways the chapters are and all of those different things. So as volunteers, we try to bring that forward for them and get them reconnected. So as we look at this next slide, let me see here. It shows all of those things that we read, right? So we have, from the simple thing of if you listen to our listener that was speaking in the comments originally, they were speaking about grocery store and discount ads. And I always find that to be one that, none of you mentioned that you read the ads every day, right? It's not a thing that you think, oh, I want to go read my ads. But I will tell you that for our listeners, it is a huge component of practical independence that allows them to do their grocery shopping and get a deal. It's something that they cannot, it's hard to get somebody to read you the grocery store ads, right? So it's a very good thing that we provide for them. And that is kind of shows that variety. So we might do fiction and the New York Times, but we're also doing things like the grocery store ads. And I think it was Rain that mentioned HR stuff. Our listeners will request really boring leases and contracts and manuals. Those are things that are important and that allow people to continue in their regular life and give them the empowerment and the access that they need to do that. So that's just some examples of the things we read. And as we move forward, then I want to, the next slide is going to bring us into having some conversation with our wonderful communications and listener research or listener outreach coordinator. In particular, we wanted to give you a little bit of background on some of, how did we become Audio Reader? Our wonderful founder was PD Surf. And let's just turn it over to Martha so that she can share a little bit of this story. Martha's a storyteller, so I hope you enjoy.
Hey, again, it's Martha. And so we're going to talk, Trisha and Nick are going to talk a lot about how and what we read, but why is so important. So I'll start at the very beginning. So once upon a time, there was a woman named PD Surf who had a friend who was in a nursing home and had lost her vision. And she brought the journal world in with her and she sat next to her and she read the paper. And when they were done, she was leaving and she thought, I bet there's a lot of other people out there who could benefit from having someone come read the paper. But she looked around and realized there's not a lot of other people visiting, not people reading to the other people in the nursing home. And so she started rolling things in her brain, and she was such a philanthropist. She started several organizations actually in Lawrence, but she just found a way. So she worked with the KANU at the time and bought them a subcarrier so that they could broadcast under their signal. And so in October 11th of 1971, they first broadcast. And at that time, it was just a few hours a day. They were working out of a little trailer over here on the side of campus. And it was a very small service, but it's just built up since then as technology has grown. The way people access it has grown, and we're now 24-hour broadcast. And then in 1988, we moved into the current location. So that was a huge upgrade. from the little trailer and a lot of little storage space to now a whole house that we're in. KPR moved in just a few years later. So now we're over at the Bear Audio Reader Center. And so one thing that technology has changed, of course, is how we access it. But a lot of people ask the question, well, we have all these great screen readers and AI that can synthesize the voice of the newspaper. So what is Audio Reader filling? And I want to share a quote from one of our listeners. She says, I have a computer and I can read the newspaper there, but I get tired of hearing the synthesized speech. My number one choice will always be Audio Reader services. It's nice to be able to access the newspaper and hear a familiar voice. And so that's really what we're serving. Our listeners say over and over that they can hear the caring in the volunteer's voice. It comes through the radio, it comes through the Alexa, it comes through the website. And just knowing that there's someone who cares enough to take time out of their day to read the paper to them, it adds to that feeling of connection. And it will always be preferred over, when you're using a screen reader, if you've lost all your sight, you hear that voice all day. And just knowing that you can have a familiar volunteer who's reading your favorite program, it just really helps them feel connected. And nothing will ever replace that kind, melodic voice of our 250 plus volunteers. And so let me share some statistics too. So as technology has grown, in 1971, it was just those closed circuit radios that we were broadcasting through subcarriers on various NPR channels. But then as technology has changed, radios are less. We are now on our website, Alexa devices, and we have our Lions telephone reader service, which you'll learn all about. And so right now, our fastest growing method of access is the Amazon Alexas. We are averaging 100 new listeners per month over the last 6 to 7 months. We have over 10,000 calls to our Lions telephone reader every year, and about 28 daily listeners listening for over 23 minutes. We still are sending out radios. There are pockets in Kansas and Missouri that do not have excellent Wi-Fi. So the radios are still a great option for some of our listeners, as we sent out 76 new radios last year. And our website has over 4,500 visits per year for streaming content directly. And now that we have a new accessible website, we're hoping that will grow even more. And another quote I want to share from a listener targets that connected feeling. So I lost my eyesight suddenly. It was startling. It was shocking, the disconnect. This service helped me learn how to feel connected to the world again. And so what I've learned through working with low vision and no vision listeners is that it is a shocking transition. People lose their eyesight in a whole variety of ways, at a variety of different ages, at a variety of different speeds. And a lot of the times you just don't know how you can continue with your regular habits, your things that you're passionate about. I've heard a lot of stories, they were sharpshooters or archery majors, and now they've lost their vision and they're not sure what to do, especially our military veterans who've lost their vision in service. And when they find out that there's adaptive archery and you can still shoot a gun when you're blind at a shooting range, of course, and that there's beep ball and sports and audio description at theaters and services like Audio Reader, it really opens up their world and helps them feel like they can continue their normal life and thrive even after their sight has gone. And so that's what we're doing here at Audio Reader, and we're excited that you're interested in joining and helping us. And if you ever have any questions or want to learn more about what we do for outreach, just let me know.
Great. I think I can take it from here. Yeah, it's my name on the screen. I'm Nick Carswell. And that was a video, by the way. It occurred to me as Martha came on screen. So if Martha is not with us in real time, which the technology is right, that should be seamless. Anyway, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on specifically how we do some of the things that Martha described and touched on. So I'm the program director. I'm ultimately responsible for the technological pieces that fit together and the broadcast and making sure that that things operate smoothly. We talk about the various distribution methods that we have. Martha mentioned the radio broadcast as the most historic aspect of that, and it did begin there, as she described. We still continue to have a broadcast stream that goes out on what's called a subcarrier of FM signals from various radio stations in and around Kansas and Missouri. It is worth noting, it's a closed circuit radio, so you can't just pick it up on any radio. It's radios have to be specifically tuned to that subcarrier signal that's embedded underneath the FM. So we give out those radios for free, as Martha mentioned. So that's still kind of the core of our service. We are like a radio station in that we have scheduled programs throughout the day. And that broadcast is available on that analog technology, which is sometimes the most reliable, not always the most reliable for everyone. So this is how these other distribution methods have evolved. I will say that our broadcast stream that is available online is kind of a mirror of that radio broadcast, with the distinction that we actually split our signal for a couple of different locations. The Kansas City region would have a specific stream that runs from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. We also break for some programming for Springfield. And we have had satellite locations in the past, Pittsburgh, Kansas, and other places. But we do now, with the digital technology, we have the ability to split our signal, and we do that for some focused areas, namely Kansas City being the biggest one with our closest metro area and concentration of listeners. We also have the telephone reader service. So Martha mentioned that was specifically created to have an on-demand service. Before on-demand was the on-demand that we're aware of it as we know it now. It's over the telephone, so you can dial in, and by selecting prompts on your phone, the listeners can quickly get to the information that they want. They can do that 24 hours a day, anytime, night or day. And the information is available. It's read daily. So I guess if we're moving towards what volunteers do, some of our volunteers read directly over the telephone from home and record directly in, and as an equivalent, our listeners listen to that recording through that same telephone reader system. You'll see here the pattern as we go through. The different distribution methods are really to appeal to the listener and how they like to listen. So we have telephone reader listeners who love to listen on telephone reader. They love the on-demand nature of it. The shopping, we have a whole shopping category, as Martha mentioned, the grocery ads. So people use it on a regular basis as part of their regular week, just like you all described what you read. They log in to read either the newspaper or the grocery ads or the obituaries on demand whenever they want to. Amazon Alexa carries our service. So we have what's called a skill on that, which can be installed. Amazon Alexa and smart speaker devices are obviously very advantageous for people with disabilities. They have a lot of functions and apps and facilities beyond our service. So we are just on there, so to speak. But it's another way to get on demand. You can also listen to the multiple streams. You can still listen at 2 o'clock if that's part of your day. But if you're not available at 2 o'clock, but you want to hear what happened at 2 o'clock, you can listen on demand. And it's all voice-based and prompt-based, as I'm sure many of you are aware. Smart speakers. Our special request program was mentioned. This is really it's a couple of reasons why we would filter something through the special request. One is that it's essentially private or unique enough, like a document, a legal document, a lease, or something that that a listener would want to refer to, have a copy of, be able to navigate to various sections. So manuals, again, some legal documents, some textbooks. And so that's special request, and those are things that we generally wouldn't broadcast to the wider public as well. And that's also true for some very niche special requests of publications. That the other aspect of that is people can get it in a way that's most convenient to them. So it would have a smaller reach in terms of the amount of people benefiting from material through a special request program, but the idea is that it has a greater impact on their independence. And supporting them in what their needs are, including things like education, continuing education, etc. We do have several of our programs available as podcasts. One as just the technology that a podcast is an audio file that shows up in your phone automatically. That's kind of the basis of it. But we also have some programs that we actually are on Spotify and are on other platforms like that, because that's how some people like to listen to those. Those are usually targeted programs. Our African American Hour is a good example of that. It was a program serving an audience that wasn't being widely served through our industry and through our programming. So we kind of dedicated a little bit of extra focus to that as an example. But again, podcasts can just be a really handy way to get information to show up automatically on your phone. And then we did talk, or somebody had mentioned about audio description. It's quite different to everything else we do. It is making primarily theater and the arts and live events available, excuse me, accessible to listeners by describing the visual components of a performance, of a musical or play, but also a variety of other arts and cultural activities. It generally happens live and in person through headsets and through a whole other kind of way of operating. It adds that missing component for some folks who would have trouble with the visual elements, would maybe missing some action, or the audio description is what fills in the gap for those. So it's a growing program. We do have multiple events each year with partnering with theaters in and around our region, but it is a little bit different. It's generally, it's you could consider it not necessarily reading, whereas most of the core of our service is around reading and making those print materials accessible. So that was kind of fast, but we want to get to the goods here of how you all can start volunteering. Although we are going to hear from Meredith next. I think I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Nick. Like I mentioned before, I'm Meredith Johanning. I'm our Assistant Development Director for Audio Reader. Beth McKenzie is our full-time Development Director. So between the two of us, we're responsible for the fundraising needs of Audio Reader on an annual basis. For the past 5 years, we're proud to say that Audio Reader is now financially independent, which means we no longer receive any state funding. We don't receive any federal funding. Now, that was new since even when I started. As Martha mentioned in her presentation, when PD Surf started Audio Reader, she was integral in putting forth her own funding to get this started, but she also partnered with the university. And KU was a big component to helping get Audio Reader started by providing funding for us each year. As that state funding got cut to the university, it was fiscal year, it was about 5 years ago. So the university decided that any entity that was not directly related to the classroom would no longer receive direct financial support from the university. So that included Audio Reader. What they do provide, though, to us is still substantial, and that's in-kind donations. So the building that we are in is a part of KU. They provide human resource services to us, facilities, anything with that has to do with our building. All of that is in kind and provided to us, which is tremendous, because if we had to vacate our building, when you get to come and tour it, you'll see there is so much that is a part of it, from our recording studios to how everything is made to be able to deliver the services that we do. So we are extremely grateful to the university for what they do provide for us. But we're also really proud that now, for the last 5 years, we've been able to become financially independent on our own. And that comes from a lot of different sources and a lot of different revenue streams. We will receive a lot of it is private donations that we are working with. We do that through mail campaigns, year-end mail campaigns, donor visits. We also do a couple of fundraiser events that are a big part of what we bring in. That also includes our annual golf tournament that we have each year. This year it's going to be June 8th. It's held at the Eagle Bend Golf Course. This is a really fun event. We actually have the football coach, Lance Leipold, is the chair of our golf tournament. He usually comes and speaks during the event. He's such a wonderful advocate for Audio Reader, and we're really lucky to have him. That's a really fun event that we love. We also do our audio sales that we have a couple of times a year. I heard a few people mention that you're involved with the library. The library is a wonderful partner to us with these audio sales that we have, where it's kind of a funny thing, but this fundraiser has been going on, or has been a part of Audio Reader for over 20 years now. We take in donations of stereo equipment, vinyl records, cassette tapes. And then what we do is we have a whole team of volunteers who help us prepare and get these items ready for, usually we have 2 sales a year, and then we're able to raise funds by having these benefit sales. That is another one of our events. Oh, and I should say, when I was talking about the library, so we partner with the library and we host these audio sales at the library. So if you're ever working on one of the book sales, We partner with them for 2 of them a year to also do our audio sale. There's also the Sensory Garden. A lot of people have mentioned they've heard about our Sensory Garden. This is on the premise of Audio Reader. It is a beautiful garden that is maintained by volunteers. Everything that is a part of the garden is tried to be planted or built with, so it has all more sensorial elements than just sight. So there's lots of plants and herbs that appeal to scent. We have lots of sculptures. Our pavilion has lots of elements that have a different touch and a different feel to it. We have lots of wind chimes and various things that you can hear. So it's just a wonderful, peaceful garden that is also an added element of Audio Reader for anybody who would like to come and visit it. And there are, at times, we will have outreach events where sometimes we have utilized volunteers where perhaps Martha is already double booked. There's lots of outreach events that we are always trying to be a part of. Audio Reader is kind of a hidden, it can sometimes be a really well-kept secret. And our challenge is always getting the word out about our service. And once people know about us, they love the service and they see the value in it. So we can always use help from volunteers if it's going to an outreach event that perhaps Martha isn't able to go to, or just being an advocate and telling other people about us and letting people know, telling family or friends who might be able to benefit from the service. So yes, that gives a little breakdown of our how fundraising works. I should also mention that we work with KU Endowment. They are a wonderful partner for us. They essentially operate as our bank. Every donation that we get goes through Endowment. We also work with them to put on One Day One KU. Maybe you've heard of One Day One KU if you are a grad of KU or if you've donated to another department, but this has become a great fundraiser for us. It's a 1 day of giving online. So you'll see that coming up in April. And Audio Reader is really grateful to Endowment to allow us to have this platform to reach other new donors and other people who want to learn about our services.
Okay, thank you so much, Meredith. Truly, it is a wonder that we are able to provide our services for free to all of our listeners. And the only way that we can do that, of course, as we say in the public radio world, this may be free for folks that are listening, but it certainly has a cost here for us to be able to do those services. So Meredith and Beth and their team of volunteers make a huge difference with all of the effort that they do, and they do it so well. So I hope you all will be able to join us for an event at some point, help out, be part of that, be wonderful. And now I'm going to move on to the What Makes a Good Audio Reader Volunteer. And so I'd like to say thank you to Meredith and thank you to Felonies for being here with us and for sharing your time with our volunteers, and let you guys jump off so that you can get to the rest of your busy days. So thank you both. Give a wave. Okay. Wonderful. Well, let's jump into the nitty-gritty now that we're really close to just having about 10 minutes left in our call, right? We have such a wonderful organization that sometimes it's just hard to put it all into a small snippet. But I want us to move forward into talking a little bit more succinctly about what it is we're asking y'all for. So when we think about a good volunteer, we think about someone that has reading skills, and that's important. And I'm going to break that down into 5 components, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But then the next thing is being comfortable with technology. And comfortable is an important word to take into account. It doesn't mean you have to be an IT guru. We do have lots of different ways for our volunteers to be able to provide our services, and some of those are higher on the technology end, like, for example, using Audacity or Audition, recording at home. That can be a little bit higher up there. But we also have things like reading with your telephone, so the telephone reader, and we also have coming into the studio. Now, I know that's not an option for folks that are not in Lawrence or very close to Lawrence, but we still want folks to be comfortable with it in the sense that you're willing to give it a shot, to try some new things, to work with technology, because there often are hiccups As you know, technology is not perfect. So we just ask for folks to be comfortable with it. And then the next thing is being flexible about what you read. You may have a love of science fiction, but we may not need science fiction to be read. And you may not be interested in the news in Garnett, Kansas, but we need that to be read. You may not like to know about the fact that Dillon's has 6 items on sale today, but our listeners do want to know that. So we ask that our volunteers are here to read for our listeners. We, of course, want you to bring your skills and your talents into that. And when possible, we try to find good connections. So if I know somebody is, a former lawyer or somebody that had physical therapy background, then we might have a special request that links in with that, and we might call on you for those things. But more often than not, we might be asking you to read something that you never thought you would read before. So that's part of our expectations. We'll move on to the next one. And this is going to be talking about those reading skills that I mentioned before. And I'm not sure, you probably won't be able to see this, but when we do the audition, we have a little, I don't know if it's tiny, but we basically have these skill sets are broken down so that we talk about that on a continuum. So I think about a reader using emphasis well when they are reading naturally. So what that means is you're not going to go into this sing-song voice that can get really patronizing, but you're also not going to go into the monotone voice that has no inflection at all. But we want to find a nice balance there so that you bring forward the meaning of what you're reading through your use of emphasis, and it doesn't go, too far one way or the other. And the same thing with pacing and phrasing. I often think about that as a concept of Goldilocks, right? You don't want to go so fast that you are stumbling over your words and nobody understands what you're saying because you're talking so fast. But you also don't want to go so slow that it starts to sound like you're halting, right? So finding a nice balance in there is really important. And also the phrasing component of that. I'd love to say that all of the things you read will be written perfectly and wonderfully, and every comma will be in the right spot. But it's not. And especially for our wonderful local journalists who are working without editors and still getting that local news out there, sometimes you really have to work on finding the phrasing that goes with that sentence so that someone understands what it's talking about, right? Voice quality and consistency is the next one. And as you can tell, we all can talk for a long time, but at some point our voices are going to get a little tired. And so we really encourage people to take breaks when you're reading. Most of our assignments are going to be about an hour of reading, give or take. And so we want your voice to be consistent and sound the same at the beginning of your reading as it does at the end of your reading, and to have minimal distractions in there. So no, if you need to clear your throat, then you pause so that our listeners aren't listening to that. And if you need to take a break because your voice is getting kind of tired, you do. That way, when you start your recording, it's consistent with the way it sounds at the beginning as it does when you end your recording at the end. Next would be pronunciation and enunciation. And when we think about that, of course, one of the most beloved things on our audition is our pronunciation test. It is 50 words that you're supposed to read blind. However, when we think about pronunciation and enunciation, the idea is to be clear, and so as minimal mumbling as possible, to also then provide that pronunciation that is correct when possible and confident when not. So sometimes that means that we spell something out. It might be someone's name in Southwest Kansas, that it's a family that everybody would know down there, but we don't know. And so if you have to spell it out, you spell it out, and then you say it as consistently and as correctly as you possibly can, and you move forward. Consistency is important. That way the listener can follow along with you. And this last one is professionalism, and that indeed is what we are hoping for. So some of it is guiding the listener by providing visual cues that perhaps they used to have but no longer do. And that helps them to go from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. And sometimes that's what we call the wrap up. So you tell them what the headline is and you tell them what the byline is at the beginning, and you do the same thing at the end. If there are some things that you need to bring forward and tell them about, like give them a transition, then you provide that as well. You have poise. You are present with the story, so you kind of have the idea of where it's going, so you can bring out the meaning. And then here's the really important part. You're neutral. We don't want editorializing. We don't want commentary. This is a service that allows the listeners to think about it and provides the information for them. So our phrase is, we are the eyes and not the brain. And what that means is, I'm not going to think for you. I'm going to allow you to make your own decisions and think about what it is that I'm reading. It's hard to do that sometimes. You have to keep your personal opinion about whatever it is that you're reading out of the story. And that means also tone and inflection needs to not be expressing that. So those are our reading skills, y'all. And there's lots of them. But if you have any questions about that before you do your audition, you're welcome to ask. We are moving quickly ahead. Volunteer expectations. We have a 6-month commitment because, as you can tell, there's lots that we do here. And so we ask for you to be able to commit 6 months, because you're going to learn all this wonderful stuff. And we want you to be able to use it for longer than you just learned it and then you're gone, right? We also ask for about an hour to 2 hours a week. And that's because most of our assignments are going to take that much time to do. Each assignment has instructions, and each assignment needs those instructions to be read and followed, because they're really specific to each one that we do. Same thing with deadlines. As Nick mentioned, we are broadcasting this, and so we need to meet that deadline and be consistent for our listeners so that the shows are there when they anticipate that they're going to be there. So those instructions will have deadlines associated with them, and we ask for folks to keep them. So we're human though, right? And so that means maybe you get sick or maybe you're going on a vacation. So we ask for 2 weeks notice for absences that are planned. And then if, and again, we work with you on that, but that's our best. A good 2-week notice is very helpful. And then if something comes up, just call us and let us know, and we will work to get subs for you. Substitutes are so important in what we do. And because we all are human, we do ask them that folks are, reciprocal in that. If you're around and you don't really have anything going on this month, pick up a sub. Help out another volunteer that got sick or another volunteer that decided to go visit the grandkids. So that's kind of the expectation component. Thank you, Nick, for moving us along. As we are reaching the last of our time together, I said that usually this takes about an hour. Sometimes it takes more like an hour and 15. So if you do have to get off, we understand that. We totally respect your time. And I can follow up with you on the additional details. If you are able to stay, please do, and I'll continue right along. So for auditioning, let's talk about this timeline because it can be a little bit confusing. We have about 26, 30-ish people that are auditioning. And so for me, that means that I'm scheduling your auditions, I'm scheduling your reviews, I'm listening to all of those, I'm getting feedback and putting that together for you. In order to make it a little bit more efficient, we go ahead and break that into 2 windows. So I'd like you to think about, do I want to audition between February 21st and 28th? That sounds great. I'm going to do that. You'll get to sign up for that. I'll send that out via email after this. But you also may be like, you know what, I got a lot of stuff going on this week. I'm going to sign up for the next window. And that next window is February 28th to March 7th. So we'll send out an email on that. So that's the time frame of the audition. The next question is, where will you do it? Well, some of you are not in Lawrence, so you will do it at home. And that we're going to have a little more information on that with Nick. Initially, we really are looking for you just to be able to send us the file, and then we can work with you on some of the details around it. But if you're coming into our studios, then you sign up with me for that. And you come in, and we have usually about an hour set aside for you to do that. It doesn't necessarily take that long, but we want you to be able to have the time to do it. And then, after you get those auditions done, then we will go ahead and set up a time for us to get together and review that in a one-on-one session. And I think that's the next slide. Is that right, Nick?
I think the actual.
Now we're talking about the audition content. Okay, great. So for the content of it itself, I mentioned briefly that we do have a 50-word pronunciation test. It used to be 100 words. So that gives us a good example of what you'll be looking at when you're reading. And then we also have 9 different sources that you'll be reading from. And again, those can be, some of those will be ads. Some of that will be describing a picture. Some of that will be a local editorial, a sports news story. So we try to give you some variety, and that allows us to see how you work with different assignments as well. And then remote audition technical needs. Hey, Nick, you're up.
Yeah. Okay. So just, I guess, a top level reminder that the audition is not a test of your technical skills in recording. We really want to hear your reading. So with that in mind, there are a couple of tools to do that. Audacity is what a lot of our volunteers use, both for the audition and for their regular assignments once they're fully onboarded. It is a free download. It's pretty simple software. It's powerful. It does a lot more than we need it to do. But basically, once you set it up and hit record, it works simply. And we've had people who are nervous about it have been able to figure it out. And, you know, for people who like to learn more about audio production, it's actually, they can kind of learn a little bit extra as well, but that's down the line. It gets you up and running and gives you the ability to record and for us to hear your reading, and that is the goal again. Adobe Audition, actually we need to update this slide because it's no longer free for students, but I believe it's still free for KU employees. Adobe Audition, it's an Adobe product. It's more towards the professional end. But it can work quite simply as well. That said, your phone has, certainly Apple iPhones have voice memos. Those are fine. They're easy ways to record directly into your phone and send it, share it via email or use the upload function. We have some instructions for that as well. Again, no special microphone needed. We're not judging anything or assessing anything on the technical qualities. That will happen later. We are concerned with that a little bit later on, but the audition and the point of the audition is to hear your reading. Obviously want to hear that it's you. It's no good in having somebody else do the audition for you, because we'll learn about that quickly as well. And I think there's even a certification to say the same. So the bottom line is that there are tools available. We can talk you through it. I hope you're not daunted by them. Most folks are able to make one of these options work. And again, it's really just so we can hear your reading, your voice and your reading. And I think I can talk about this next step as well. If you are auditioning remotely, we use Dropbox. We use the file request function of Dropbox, which means that you do not need a Dropbox account. Sometimes it's easier to actually log out of a Dropbox account if you have one. But the point being, it won't go to your Dropbox limit. I don't know if anyone has a full Dropbox. I know I do, associated with other accounts. So we avoid all of those challenges. We do have a suggested naming protocol. That's true for your audition. And once you're fully on board and have your assignment, we have naming protocols all throughout our remote processes. And then I guess, audition. Trish can talk more about the timing. You may or may not receive a confirmation email from Dropbox. Unfortunately, we're kind of resigned to the fact that it's not guaranteed that you get that for a wide variety of reasons, but you can always check with us that we have received yours. And again, we have, I haven't looked recently, but we started our Dropbox file request upload in March 2020 when everything went virtual, and we've received, I don't know, must be like 50,000 audio files. So lots of people have done it before, and you should be able to do it as well using something like Audacity and Dropbox. I think that's me, Trish.
Okay.
There you go.
Great.
Yeah.
You'll see that the last line on that screen said that you needed to make sure to complete the form that was on the final page of the audition. I'm going to read that again because that allows you, so that it's basically a confirmation page. It's like, I finished my audition, and then you fill out that little form. And when you do that, that gets us to the next step. So if you're auditioning in the studio, or if you're auditioning at home. Either way, you're using the exact same audition. I send you a file and you click through it and it brings up the things you have to read. It gives you all the information there. So if you read at home, you'll do the same audition as if you do in the studio. And at the very end of it, you want to make sure that you fill out that confirmation so that then it will send you a link that says, meet with Trish for a one-on-one Zoom meeting. Here's some ideas. Here's some times that might work. So all of these things are sort of linked together. We're hoping that that makes it as simple and streamless as possible, or as seamless as possible. Streamless. Okay. So yeah, this is just the next step, y'all. We're at the end basically, to make sure that you remember to pick that audition window. You know, it's basically this coming week or the following week, and then to complete your audition, and then to sign up for that audition review, and then to have the review with me. When you are successful with your audition, you've completed these steps and then you go through that review process and you are successful in that audition. Then we start to talk about substitutes and substitute and regular assignments. And those are going to be determined by what we have available and also your interests too. And a lot of it has to do with schedule. I know a lot of times folks think that there's a lot of flexibility in this, but really there is some flexibility in some of our assignments, but many of our assignments are based on the day. And so I will work with you to look at what works for you. Can you read in the morning? Can you read in the afternoon? Do weekends work for you? Do weekdays work for you? That sort of thing. So when we do that review, we'll talk a lot about that too. I also just want to shout out that volunteers are also welcome to help with our sales. Meredith is wonderful to work with, and our events as well as our garden. We are going to have a garden party on March 5th, so I hope that folks will come out for that too, and we'll get you all hooked into those events and wonderful trainings that happen regularly. So we are only, let's see, about 10 minutes over schedule. So I want to at least open up and see if anybody had any questions, because at this point, when I get done here, actually, I take that back. This is Friday. So when I get done on Saturday, I will send out the link to the audition and the link to audition, and also the link to sign up for that window. And that will allow us to get started in the next process. But don't anticipate an email today. It'll go out tomorrow afternoon after I finish the other orientation. And I'm seeing, let's see, PC owner.
Sorry, I forgot to put my name in.
That's okay. Who's that? I'm sorry.
Pat Hughes.
Oh, hi, Pat. Thank you. I think we missed getting an introduction when we first started. Glad that you're with us. Yeah, Dropbox is, you'll have a link, and actually it's totally okay if you're not familiar with it. The link will be there at the end of the audition, and you just click on the link and then upload your file. Is that what you would say, Nick, or is there any other?
Yeah, I would also say though Dropbox is a lot more than just a link. So what I wanted to stress is you do not need to create an account. You will just be using it as a link website from which to upload a file. It is more than that. You know, the way companies are, they may want you to sign up. It's not required. So you'll really just be using it as a web link to an online form. But it does much more than that. It's a file storage, online file storage and sharing software. But you just need to use it as a link. So it's pretty easy.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Okay. Any other quick questions that folks might have? And you're welcome, Margie. Thank you for being part of this. I'm excited for this opportunity to be able to share and hear all of your reads and bring you on as volunteers. We are very grateful for your willingness to spend this afternoon with us, and we look forward to the next steps.
Yeah. I have one more question.
Sure.
All the stuff you wrote through there, as far as picking our window, are we going to do that by responding to whatever it is you send out tomorrow?
You are correct. Thank you very much, Pat. That's exactly right. Yes, it will be, I'll send an email and it will have a link to sign up to one or the other of those. And I will also say I have lots of these signups and things like that, but you know what? An email or a call to me also works. And I recognize that sometimes there's just too many little buttons. So you're welcome to just reach out, and I'm glad to set you up too.
Okay.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, I wish you a wonderful weekend. I guess it's going to be cold, so welcome back to winter. And I'm sure spring will be around the corner too. Thanks again,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Meredith. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks. Nice to meet everyone.
Me too.